I know you're going to be talking about EPIC3 Center, and I don't know if I can do it justice, so I'm going to introduce you. Please give a rounding applause for my friend Keto Hodge.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. All right, so I'm going to start off by, of course, thanking my sponsor, Buster. He's been an awesome guy. I've learned a lot from him. And of course, thank you guys. I can't ever repeat what he says out loud. And I also want to bring up Corey Jones, Mr. Corey Jones from our school, success coach. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Hope you guys enjoy it. This is literally our job. This is what we do every day when we're not throwing down $3 martinis at Carney across the street. So let's slide over.
I don't take, or indulge in any of that. I don't know what he's talking about. My name is Corey Jones. I'm actually a transition specialist over at EPIC. And basically what EPIC is EPIC is a school when students get removed from their traditional settings, such as a regular high school, regular middle school. When they're removed from those schools for whatever behaviors they may have, they come to us. And it's our job to help them do a 180, turn around and bring them back to the fold, and see what type of endeavor, what they have coming up next is going to be what's best for them. Some of those students go back into a traditional setting. Some of them go to a career tech school, and some of them go to an adult educational setting where they can be successful at. Now, Mr. Newell put together a great presentation for you guys. Here you go. Now, basically, you're asking what is an EPIC Center? Basically, education, prevention, intervention centers. And they tried to give it a different name. It used to be alternative centers, but it was just such a negative kind of like term, so they tried to switch it up and give it something new, so that kids didn't have to say, oh, I go to an alternative school. We go to an EPIC school. We have 3 different levels of the EPIC schools. EPIC level 1 is sort of like if you have been suspended from school, and instead of you just being at home, you go to a particular place. We have different ones set up in different middle schools and high schools throughout the district. You would go there and you would do your time. So say you had a 5-day suspension, you would go to these EPIC 1 centers at these schools and you would get your classwork done. EPIC 2 is sort of like a D.W. Waters. It's a setting where students can get some life skills such as plumbing, electrician, culinary is also offered. One of those is also called Bowers and Whitley. One is off of Fletcher, and I believe D.W. Waters is not too far from here. But that's an EPIC level 2 center. Also, we're in EPIC level 3. There is no 4. So when you get kicked out of school, you come to us. We're EPIC level 3. Go ahead. Now, just a little bit about us. Of course, we're under the leadership of Jeff Akins, which is our individual that's over all of the schools throughout Hillsborough County. Our principal's name is Mick Body. We also have an administrator there, Bristol White, and also Tanya Colston. Some of our culture at this EPIC Center is, of course, culture. We want to give that back to the students because a lot of times they've been in situations where they really don't know how to act. So we kind of establish our culture there, which is you're going to get your academics done. My principal always like to say the ABCs: attendance, behavior, and curriculum. So a lot of times those the curriculum that these students are given, they haven't really accepted that at traditional sites. So we try to make sure that we kind of bring them back into the fold, that they get used to learning again, so that when they go back to these traditional settings, they're able to actually integrate and do well in those settings. One of my things that I do as a transition specialist is I actually go back to the schools once we send them back, and I check up on the kids. I deal with administration, I deal with their guidance counselors, try to make sure the scheduling is right, try to give these individuals some pros and cons about the student, what works, what doesn't work. Also, it's cool for the kid to kind of see a familiar face, especially when they're going back into the fold. We have 139 students on our campus. On any given day, we might have 80 to 85. So when some of these students go back to a traditional setting, let's just say like an Armwood, where it's 2,000 kids, it's a big difference. We have some students that have never been in high school. They spend all their time at one of our centers. So they don't know what it's like to be in that kind of high school setting. So we have to walk them in. We also deal with parents. We have a full staff. Because a lot of times we give parents tools that they need to be successful as well when dealing with their children. I'll let Mr. Nord kind of take over from here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, so yeah, the ABCs, the way it works which actually is a good segue. The ABCs are a good segue because the way students exit our school is through attendance. Actually, the A is attendance. My apologies. The B is behavior, and the C is curriculum. With the attendance piece, you can have no more than 5 unexcused absences in the 9 weeks that you're supposed to exit the program. Which actually means I should probably backtrack and tell them how after the piece about how kids get there. Basically, you may have a judge in the juvenile justice system, a magistrate, what have you, a hearing officer that hears the student's case, whatever it was. Maybe it was a fight, maybe it was drugs in the community, maybe they brought a gun to school. There's certain activities that will automatically send a student to an EPIC3 top level. Whether you do it in the community or whether you do it at school. Guns would be one of them, okay? An arrest for guns or bringing gun or drugs, drug possession, so forth. So the judge or hearing officer says, okay, based on your level of offense, you have this many weeks or this many quarters, 9-week quarters that you have to complete. You have to show good attendance. So the A means you can have no more than 5 unexcused absences, the 9 weeks that you're supposed to exit. The B, behavior, means you cannot have suspensions or fighting, the 9 weeks you're supposed to exit. And really overall, we try to, let them know that they're going to look at your entire record while you've been here. If you've been on your P's and Q's and been doing fine, engaged in extracurricular activities like the PA, Police Athletic League, boxing, the resume training, the college trips, so forth, so on, that's going to look a lot better on your record than if you're just dropping them at the drop of a hat, just because somebody said something about your haircut. So that's the behavior part. And then the curriculum, of course, they have to maintain passing grades in their core classes, which would be like math, reading, writing, so forth. To get them accustomed to the fact that when you go back to your regular schools, in public schools, of course, we have the grade system, right? A, B, C, D, F, that was passed down from the state legislature. So if you're making A's and B's, maybe even C's, your school shouldn't have and everything else is in line, your school shouldn't have a lot of problem taking you back. But if you're making F's, well, you're going to depress that school letter grade, right? Because that's an average of all the student grades and passing rates, so forth, for their exams. So that school's not going to take you back. So let's get you on track so you really understand how things work. All right, the next piece. These are a handful of pictures just to show you some of the extracurricular activities we've got going on. At the top left, and we actually have to credit Mr. Jones for bringing in a lot of these awesome community partnerships that provide our kids with extracurricular activities. Because again, it's an EPIC center, so we don't have organized sports per se. We don't have prom. We don't have these traditional clubs, glee club, chorus, marching band, all these other things, art class that all these other schools would have. But we still want the students to become well-rounded, have a well-rounded education. So this year, the Police Athletic League started bringing about 3 or 4 of their officers every Tuesday. They train about 10 to 15 of our students, male and female, in the fundamentals of boxing. And I tell you, it's a lot of fun watching those kids, really enjoy their training. One piece is in the past we've done tees, high society tees for the ladies, just showing, teaching them etiquette, how to dress properly, how to be appropriate in different social and business situations, things like that. We have intramural sports that we started. So we have kickball tournament, every week so many teams will compete and then it goes down to the championship. We have a basketball tournament that just started recently. We also have flag football. And this year, in coordination with the PAL, the Police Athletic League, our all-star team of winners from basketball will be going to play the PAL all-star team, which again is pretty cool. They get to go out in the community. It's basically a field trip, have a great time. And again, all of this is also in concert with their grades. They have sort of a report card, a player's card that they carry around school with them. And every day, the teacher marks what grade they got. So as long as you're maintaining passing A, B, C type grades, conduct, and academic grades, you can play. Okay, because again, we got to mirror the real world for them. And some of them are future high school and collegiate athletes. We've got students that have successfully exited and are playing football, basketball, so forth at different high schools in the area. So this is a young man in our media center. Just a couple years ago, we got access to a $25,000 grant. And for the first time since the school was built in 1991, we actually have a media center where students can go and check out books, write reports, and you wouldn't believe what a big deal that is. A lot of the students don't have a library at home, unlike you and me. When I was coming up, and Mr. Jones and me were coming up, we had hundreds of books in our home. We had World Book Encyclopedia. You guys remember Childcraft, World Book Encyclopedia, Swiss Family Robinson, all those books. These kids don't have that at home. So, it's a great educational and enrichment activity for them. This was last week's career fair. We hold a semesterly, I guess that's a word, a semesterly career fair where McDonald's, who's one of our sponsors, Bill Curry Ford, who was it this year? The Navy, U.S. Navy.
We had Army and Navy.
Okay, we had Army and Navy recruiters that came, a number of different companies, and interviewed some of the students on site. Students got to dress up. And this gentleman right here, he's not a student. That's actually Mr. Jones. I know he looks a little young. Oh, there's the military recruiters. And kids get to quiz them all day, ask them really good questions, practice interviewing. And again, in certain cases, they may actually get a job out of the career fair, okay? Let's see. Yeah, this was also another picture from a couple weeks ago. We started a chess club. Our IT guy, Mr. Hardeen, awesome tech professional. He started a chess club with the students last year. Again, another enrichment activity. Okay, another thing we've done in the past, both Mr. Jones and I, from time to time, we will utilize our own professional networks to bring in professional speakers, kind of like a Great American Teach-In for an hour. The speaker comes in and talks about their profession, mixes in a little character development, how to overcome despite the odds, what kind of person you have to be in life, what type of studies or certifications maybe they had to acquire to do what they do. So some of the guys in the past, some of these guys, Ed Narain, former state representative and vice president of AT&T, has come through. Mr. Walter Jennings, who's an officer with the USF Foundation and the Alumni Center. Let's see, one of my good friends, Dennis Amadeus, who's actually a young man who's a former convicted felon, but is now a full-time poet, author, graphics designer. He's got several companies. He just inked a multi-$1,000 arts, grant from Hillsborough County Arts Council, and just an awesome example of a turnaround young man. I'm going to play a clip for you guys real quick, and hopefully you guys can hear it.
Put the microphone next to the
Okay. Okay. Sorry. All right, there you go. Okay.
Thing about technology when it works, it works.
There we go. All right. You can't hear the volume too much, so we'll continue on. Now, Mr. Jones will talk about community partnerships, so forth.
And basically, just to touch on a little bit of about what Mr. Norris said, we don't have an alumni association. we don't have a booster club. We don't have any of those types of things that would bring in money to our school. So normally, what we go figure, right? Normally, what we do is we reach out, have community partners. We partnered with several companies, you name it, from pizza places to restaurants to car dealerships. Any type of thing that we can do to help our students, we try to reach out and do those types of things. We also do stuff for our teachers. We have some of the hardest working teachers in the district. I mean, when a kid gets removed from a regular school, they come to us. Our teachers have to deal with them. In traditional settings, maybe a teacher has a few kids that cut up. But in our situation, every kid that's there has been removed from some school. So these teachers might have 5 to 10 kids in the classroom, and they're the kids that have caused problems for other schools. So we try to do something every month for our students. We have hotels that will donate 2-day stays, and we'll raffle it off to teachers just to keep their morale high. Because you can imagine what it could be like walking into a classroom with students and they necessarily don't want to be there. So we definitely reach out and we network with community partners. We do mentorships with those community partners. We're always looking for mentors, people just want to come in and say, hey, I wouldn't mind talking to some young men, some young ladies about what it means to be successful and how success looks. A lot of times these students don't really see that at home. So it's somewhat of a learned behavior if that's all they're around. So we try to show them and expose them to different things. We take them on field trips, like we said. We've taken some kids to UT last semester. And for the first time, they were on a college campus. And, you know, some of those students, they might not make it to UT, but they might go to HCC. And if from HCC, they might go to UT. So there's always different types of things that you can do to expose these students. So we also do, and we get donations, like I said, when Dixie will donate things. We had a young man, tragic loss last semester. If you're familiar with it, a young man got hit on Fowler. That was one of our students. And he passed away a day afterwards. So we had the grief counselors. We had to deal with that with a student. So when Dixie, they said that, hey, you know what? We'll donate some flowers and some other things. We had a secretary, lost her mother. They donated food and all types of things. So we work with people all the time, and they understand our demographic. So they definitely work with us. And we're always looking for community partners. So if anyone here wants to be a community partner, by all means, come on board. It doesn't mean that you have to cut a check. That's nice, but sometimes we just need your time.
That's right.
You know, it's not about a check with us. Sometimes it's just about how we can help and how we can change some of these minds and mind states for their current situation. And it's like anything else. We always talk about it. There's nothing like a comeback story. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like a kid that's been in the ditch and been dropped off, and all of a sudden he comes out. I like to tell him, Ray's like the ashes, the phoenix, right? And you know, I always like to tell the kids that people want to see you succeed, especially when they know where you're coming from. So Just a little bit about that, and if at all you want to help or donate, I brought some of my cards. You can reach out to me. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a check. You can say, hey, Mr. Jones, we'd love to do some mock interviews with some students, just to give them some interviewing skills. Because a lot of them, we try to tell them to go get a job, but they didn't know that you shouldn't probably wear shorts to the job interview unless we told them. Sounds like common nature, but it's not. You know, we had to tell a young man, look, you can't wear jogging pants to a job interview. I don't care if you just want to wash dishes. I want you to be the best dressed, person that's ever interviewed for that dishwashing position. To the point where they have to give it to you because they just don't understand why you would put on a shirt and tie just to interview for that job. So practice makes perfect.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Yep.
So as you guys can see, there's of course a couple pictures you guys are familiar with. A couple years ago, you guys were awesome. You helped me raise 80 men's ties. All of you guys did. And we brought them back to campus at the year-end sort of rites of passage or ties of passage program that we had for the young men. Every young man got at least 2 ties. So I was able to we had actually about 40 young men, middle school and high school fellas. And a lot of them got their first professional tie. So things like that are a big deal. It doesn't always cost a lot of money to impact a child's life. I'll give you an example of something that we go through. It's a touching story. I wrote about it on Facebook the other day. You might have seen it. I had a kid that came up to the front. I'm in charge of what they call student property. Students leave their money, their cell phones, their keys, contraband, anything that is not necessary at the front of the school with me in a plastic box, right? In these envelopes. Each envelope has their name, the student's name on it, so forth. So this one kid, I noticed he'd come up every day and ask me for his hairbrush. And he'd always leave his hairbrush in the plastic container. And his favorite body spray, and what else? His lotion, and I think a tube of lotion. So I got kind of annoyed, because every day he'd come and, Mr. Nord, can I have my brush, please? I need my brush, please. And he'd stand off to the side, brush his hair for a minute, and then hand me back his brush. I put it in the box for safekeeping. I was like, come on, man, to myself. And then I found out a few days later, that the young man does that because he is homeless. Every single night, he stays in a different group home, because there's no single group home that has accepted him, you see. So these are kids that we're impacting, kids that have nobody to advocate for them. They've fallen through the cracks. And who knew? He's dressed just as nicely as any other kid, but he doesn't know which set of parents he's going to go home with from one night to the next. So now I'm like, okay, yeah, here's your hairbrush, man. Here's a little something extra for you. And I can't tell you how many backpacks even Mr. Jones and I have given away just this year alone. Almost every week, some student comes that doesn't have a backpack. Their parent may not have the money, and we may get a $5 backpack. We distribute it to a student, and you should see the student's faces just light up, especially if the backpacks are colored, have a colored zipper, just one thing. It could be all black backpack, got a red colored zipper, but his red colored zipper is different from the guy who's got the backpack with the yellow colored zipper. Just literally as simple as that. Okay, so in the future, if we have opportunities, just think of things like that we can do to help the students. If you have access to somebody who has backpacks or small bags, big deal, very big deal. You got access to somebody who has toothbrush, toothpaste. We stock the school nurse with toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, soap, any kind of small goods that we can get our hands on, because the kids need them, okay? So it doesn't take a lot to impact a child. If you are interested in participating in any of that, you know where I am. You can always email me, and I'm more than grateful for your participation. I would